So what are we doing here today? Extreme IT strategies, yeah, for the extreme times. That's the topic of the discussion. What we are going to do today, we have expert panel members of 5 panel members. All 5 are from the Middle East and quite well-known, well-established thought leaders of the industry are there with us. I'm glad to that they have found the time to be with us today. The talk is around 3 main ideas. One is work from home. We all have gone to work from home. All CIOs, many of you have already implemented the same. And but at the same time, the businesses, your CEO is asking you, how do you measure employee productivity? How do you reward, incentivize, identify people whom to be incentivized? And how do you make sure that the data, the enterprise data, it remains secure, free from attacks? How do we? This question is coming to the minds of every CIO.
My name is Venki Mahadevan. I'm the CIO for Dubai Investments, and it's been exciting times the last month or so, and we've assembled here to essentially speak about our experiences, share some of them with you. We've been deploying some of the strategies, if I may. I wouldn't really call them strategy because we really haven't had the time to huddle into a conference room and use the whiteboard and draw up some strategies. But essentially, it's been emergency strategies, if you may. And one of the first things we did was we actually huddled into a room with the senior guys, the business owners, the stakeholders, and the C-level, C-suite people to realize from an organization and from a business point of view, what is it that we need to focus on in the coming days? Because when we started this whole sterilization drive, if I may call it, one didn't know how many weeks it was. So it started with a week, then 2 weeks, and then it's extended now. But one really didn't know what one was getting into. So the idea was to empower and enable the employees to be able to work remotely or from home at the earliest. And that was really the brief. And then the reason we met the business owners is essentially to understand if they had to pick 2 or 3 important areas that they would like their business to be absolutely running on, then what would they be instead of opening the tap completely on day one. And that was very, very essential feedback. And I think that was really a big learning for me as well, getting them into the room and getting them. So that's what we did. Obviously, because all of us have limited bandwidth, we have limited team members, and suddenly if everything has to be done in a day, it's not going to happen. That was surely a pat on my back, if I may, when we started off with this. The second thing we did was really, so Dubai Investments is a conglomerate of about 30 odd companies and multiple industry segments. So what we did was we actually had a central information security framework, and we quickly rolled that out to all the subsidiaries and said, implement this. And it was not a discussion. It was actually, we just rolled it out to all of the subsidiaries and the alliances pronto. And we said, we'll discuss later. That kind of at least ensured that employees who are dialing in from home at this point of time would be adequately covered, and company data is adequately covered, because as we all know, these are times when people are waiting to use the side gate and enter, or use a proxy and get in. So that was these were the 2 big things I would say we really did that paved the way for so many other things. That the fact that I'm sitting on this call and able to chat with you and smile off and on clearly means that somewhere we have done something right.
Mr. Piyush Kumar Chauhan, he runs some of the world's biggest retail company, Loulou Group, thousands of SAP users. And obviously, the biggest challenge, Piyush, could have been for you in the last 2-3 years is lockdown, and you have run your stores absolutely, without any flaw, even though they were demanding much more than the regular. So how did you manage all that, Piyush? Shamit, that would be a good start.
Sure. Thank you, Sridhar. Good morning to everyone. I think 400 plus people have joined on a morning today, which I think is very good. Obviously, for people who know, Loulou is a large retail group, and our business is on two large verticals. One is obviously the supermarket and the hypermarkets that we run, and the second is the mall business that we run, the hospitality and the mall business. So obviously, one part of the business was impacted because of COVID, but the other part was actually declared as an essential service. Yeah, what it means is there is an additional responsibility on a group itself to make sure that food security as such, which is now declared an essential service, has to run uninterrupted in whatever situation that you are in. And that posed a very, very unique and a once in a lifetime opportunity problem for all of us. What we basically tried to think through was, how do we come out of this in a way that we are able to not impact our staff that much, as well as we are able to serve the needs of the customer. So there has to be a fine balance that we need to strike, and that is where we started planning. And when we talk about planning, it was a 3-day very, very intensive planning exercise with the top management team, in which what needs to be done. And there were two things that came out very strongly. The first was, how can we make sure that we have enough stock so that we can basically align the supply chain and we stock up enough so that our stores don't run out of our food stuff as and when the kind of situation emerges. And the second is, how can you do that without impacting and making sure that your customers are safe, and more than that, your employees are safe, because employees need to be running the stores, and the employee on the back end and the front end both were the critical kind of support system, which would then help in terms of making sure that the customer is getting whatever they want. And to give you some statistics and data, we were able to increase the warehousing capacity overnight. Within 3 or 4 days, we added about 30% extra warehousing capacity, which I think is remarkable. And obviously, remarkable solutions require remarkable situations require remarkable solutions. So we were able to get a maximum about 30 to 40% extra warehousing space. We were able to mobilize a lot of flights from all over the world to make sure that we get stuff piled up in those warehouses. And this happened within a span of 15 to 20 days. And you can just imagine, when all the flights are stopped, when everything is being controlled, how agile you need to be in terms of planning, in terms of making sure that your decision making is fast, and you work with the government, you work with across the governments of across the region, and then make sure that stuff is brought into. Overnight, we understood that our hypermarkets and supermarkets need to be cleaned. So overnight, we introduced kind of sanitization policies. We introduced SOPs to basically make sure that the employees are sanitizing themselves on a regular basis. Overnight, we were able to put in a film between the cashier and the customer. And so there were kind of 10 to 12 such initiatives, how to make sure that your stores are safe from a trading perspective. And luckily, I think we have been running most of our stores up and running in the last 1.5 months, and we are seeing the customer having confidence to come in and shop with us during this pandemic. So if I were to just summarize what has tested during this time, the testing has been in terms of agility. And it is time and again said that in the modern age, organizations need to be nimble and agile, right? And obviously our solutions, so for example, overnight we were able to provision about 1,000 plus remote users. So obviously a large part of the users were already using remote, but there were a set of people, let's say the buying team, let's say the warehousing team, who never thought that they will any day require remote working. We were able to provision that with the help of Cloud4C and Microsoft and other partners that we have worked on. We were able to kind of get laptops on rent. Yeah, obviously there was a large workforce which was working on desktops, and access to those desktops was not possible. So we basically rented laptops, made sure that they were able to work from home, and there was a significant large chunk of staff which has been now provided with devices so that they can be kind of online every time, anywhere kind of a scenario. So agility of IT organization has been tested, and on the back of it, making sure that the networks are up, your security policies are up, making sure that your VPNs are working, and that is what I call the IT, the hidden face of IT. Although not very much appreciated in the public, while I would say that they are the real COVID warriors who work on the back end to make sure that the stores are operating and working in fine conditions.
My name is Damu. I started my career as a rocket scientist in Indian Space Research Organization for 14 years. And then I moved to IBM. And again, it's a coincidence. I was there in IBM for 14 years across the globe and doing various leadership roles. And last 14 months, I am in Saudi Arabia as a Chief Technology and Innovation Officer for a startup called Bayan Payments Limited. Yeah. And as all of you know that, I think startups has got its own challenge, right? We may not have N+1 resource to do an activity, right? Perhaps we are forced to do multiple roles by a single person. Yeah. So when this type of pandemic comes, I think the impact on the small and medium enterprises will have more impact than the bigger ones, because since I worked in the enterprises as well earlier, right? So what we did, I think quickly, let's get into, for me, as Sridhar was rightly saying that we are financial institute and we have a digital wallet, and we are also a payment aggregators, right? So we have a payment gateway. So it simply says that the e-commerce money we collect from somebody and we keep it with us, and then we settle them, not through the bank, by ourselves. That's what we are, aggregators. And the wallet is concerned, you top up on trust on us, and then you spend it outside. So it's becoming a much more, responsible and critical business, if you ask me, right? So, and being a startup and very small, when the pandemic comes in, how we are going to do the two things, right? Pretty much it has come to my mind was business continuity plan, because I cannot stop for any pandemic about somebody's money is with me, we should allow them to spend. Second thing, the security aspects. So these two were in the top in my mind. And then we are also thinking that, okay, so how we will take an advantage of this, right? Because way back in February, when we were doing a look ahead meeting, and as rightly said that the extreme strategy, perhaps that I will talk in the later section of the question about what we did differently. So when we talk about the BCP and security, of course, we have some of the key roles like compliance and risks. All of you know that it's because of the data privacy, and generally it's a working from office only, that the network is well secured. And as all of you know that it's a simple and practical, right? The one person is doing that job, he says that, yes, you're asking me to work from home, I don't have any machines, what to do? So what happens is, sometimes I could see the entire business burden is coming on your head, since because you are an head of IT, because it's a product company anyway. So what we did basically, we had all-in-one PCs. It means it is easy to transport, not as a monitor and as well as that. Luckily, it's a fortunate to have those things. And we requested them that, okay, so we will deliver these all-in-one PC to your home. And we made the connection through the RDC, through the VPN, because we use the systems like SaaS for transaction monitoring and basically for doing the screening, right? These are all the very critical data. So that was a great one. I think people have accepted, and then we shifted. When you come back to the HR and finance, right? We do have the products. And then, in smaller companies, one person may be doing the HR, procurement, and all those things, right? And you know that, because if they don't have the system, they can't do anything. So that's when I think our strategy of, yes, taking a pain of taking the desktop, delivering to their house. Decision which I took is, we want to, reduce the number of changes to the production, and we also put the carbon black to end every, developer's desktop, so that it will block them to doing any unwanted changes, right? Instead of reactive, then we made it proactive, right? Whenever we need, if it is a case of severity 1 or 0, then we take a cautious step to do that. Yeah. So these are all the few things which we have taken. But fortunately, I think our our product were running without any issues so far. And there are a lot more to go ahead, right? Because the COVID is not going to leave us with these challenges. So a lot more to go forward. So that's all from my side, Sridhar.
The most interesting thing we have done in this context is extending this working from home concept. I mean, we've tried our best to extend it to our customers also, because the showrooms are closed, salespeople are not coming to the showroom, but the customers wanted to inquire about our products. So the sales team came out with an interesting a solution. They said that, look, why don't we extend a hotline to our customers so that people can call in, and then we can manage the whole process in a collaborative way. By the way, we used Microsoft Teams for collaboration with our own internal teams. So we have extended it to our customers also. And what happened that is, we created initially a PBX with a hotline number. And we have, with the call center applications, we have with IVR and voice recording, we were able to route the calls to the right salesperson. Once the calls are received, we have the salespeople carrying the tablet with the CRM applications and the cart applications involved. So the customers, they can interact with the customers with the type of products they are interested in. And they can also share. We have also adapted within the 2-3 days time our B2B portal, where we can extend the product images to our customers. So we were able to share the images with the customers, whatever they are interested to look into. And then on top of it, we also have the visualizer, home visualizer applications, where we can visualize your own space, like your bathrooms, using the application which you have posted on our website. So with all these things, we were able to collaborate with the customers, and we were able to share the documents with the customers, and then we were able to convert a lot of inquiries into orders. And subsequently, the fulfillment actions also automated through the system. SAP was deployed for this purpose, and we were able to collect the money, collect the payments from the customers through bank transfer options, etc., etc. So there are multiple processes involved. We have put it all together in 4 days' time. You will appreciate that, a complex process of this type, typically it takes 4 days for the requirement gathering itself. But that's what we have delivered in 4 days' time. Like what Piyush was talking about earlier, I mean, agility, that's the key.
And whatever Piyush, Raman, Venki have shared, I think it's all the same for all of us, right? We are going through the same challenges, and IT, so we do say the testing times, but I think it's far more testing time for IT, okay, to prove the delivery, to prove the agility of the services that we offer. We have key use cases like, some of them have delivered in 4 days, some of them done overnight. And this is what we have done as well. I mean, it was an overnight call to activate certain functions working from home. Now, for Alpha Exchange, being a financial institute, we had a remote working culture a bit, where I had my team works from home on certain cases. We have some business team, they work remotely as well, because they're on the field. So we had a kind of framework to do so. But then we also have a certain sensitive environment, sensitive functions which are confined to the office. All right, and that's how we were so we were very, very strict about it. Say, guys, no, you cannot do this and you can't do that. And suddenly, all the governance that we have kept for in a couple of years now, all the security that we implemented, we had to go break free from all of that and say, you know what, guys, now you can do all these things from your home. All right, and when I say home, it also means now you're going to be connecting your devices from a public Wi-Fi, which is a home Wi-Fi where your kids are playing some games which might not be secure. So there's a lot of risk around it. Though your endpoints are secure, they are hardened, but then again, the fear is the Wi-Fi. Because with a limited number of users, we were able to give them a 3G, 4G network and say, guys, you know what, you're going to connect only through this. All right, there's no other option. But now we are opening up. We have hundreds of people working from home and performing critical functions, critical sensitive functions, right? And this was a major challenge for us. Definitely, our team, again, hats off to them. And honestly, yes, they are the real warriors. They are the people behind making sure that every other sector functions, right? And when we look at the hospitals, we look at other areas, I mean, of course, they are the silent warriors who do the tasks and stay back. But I think this is a time when we all need to really appreciate, all the efforts, the foundation that they have put, or that we have put for the businesses. So that's all very important. Now, as a financial institution, we have a lot of challenges, right? We are into remittance house. We do remittances. That means we touch people's life, because remittance is not a luxury to have. It's a necessity. It's like, people who are here, especially when I talk about UAE and Middle East, they are here to send money back home to support their families. In a situation like this, where they have limited choice, so they're confined to their homes, right? They have limited options to transfer money. And that was a big challenge. So yes, we can say we can operate from home, but how do we serve the customers? And that was a major challenge. And that's where the leadership came in place. There was a lot of communication with the regulators, with central banks, and economic departments as well. So one of the things that happened initially, when they said necessary services to be allowed, and of course retail, hospitals were one of them, exchange houses were excluded from that, right? And that's where the leadership came in play. We went ahead with the central bank, with the economic department, saying that this is a necessary service that is required for the people to transfer. Well, that is something that's mandatory. And then it was added as a necessity into the list where it can be open. So we were allowed to open our retail, our exchange houses to serve the customers. But then there was another challenge. You open the branches, but then how many people are going to visit your branches? And then you have a huge segment of laborers who are staying in camp, and they don't have the facility to go all the way to the branches. Now you have to serve them as well. How do you serve that, right? Again, so there was a lot of teamwork between the business, the IT, and the regulators also. And I must really appreciate the kind of step the regulator has taken during this time to support the business, but not only that, but support the people residing in the country. There were a lot of exceptional approval that we got just for this case, wherein our team were able to go to the camps and serve the people, and help them to remit money to their families back home, right? Who are also probably stranded over there, right? So that was something. And why we are agile and why we were able to meet the requirement of COVID, because we have gone through this journey in various aspects, right? When we speak about dollar spending, and that's where the whole cloud comes in play. Because earlier we look at capex investment, right? So when I do investment, I would do investment for 5 years, okay, which is a completely capex, right? And that creates a risk, right? Dollar spend, and that's where the whole cloud comes in play. Like, so when I spend on cloud, I have the flexibility now, right, that I can scale up or down as and when I require, right? So that's why what happened, like, I'm able to save the investment in any unforeseen event that might come up. Right? This is one thing, or I can scale up immediately whenever required. That's one thing. But from IT point of view, I think we have been agile throughout, because we see the business transforming, right? We see the industry transforming as well. We see the customer demands are moving from the conventional way of walking into a branch to digital and then to omni-channel experiences. Right now, when we have to go through this journey, we kind of set up our environment such, or we invest in a smart structure in such a way that we are able to cope up with any kind of turbulences or any kind of expectations. So bear in mind, like, whenever we sit for a business meeting, there's a new surprise always, right? So we want to do something, and then the next business meeting, we want to do something else, right? And this happens. Right now, you can't keep on changing. So that's how it is, right? So we are looking at microservices, we're looking at cloud, we're looking at API-based communication. So these are all things that, as a CIO, as an IT, we consider, we make sure it's there. So every dollar that we invest into it is being taken into consideration. So it's just a nutshell of saying how an IT really operates, to meet the growing need of the business and the customers also.
Extreme strategies. Another one says, taking the example of TCS. TCS said 80% of our employees are going to work from home in the next 2-3 years. Nothing to do with COVID pandemic. It's triggered by pandemic, but they're talking about 2-3 years down the road, right? Systematically, they're going to make 80% of their people. That means that maybe a few 100,000, that means a few million square feet getting vacated from the space, right? Extreme strategies. Things like this. So there are a few more which have come, and we'll compile a few and then send it across to you all.